Gulf of America, I find hilarious, and I'm going to adopt it immediately because it's hilarious, but also I think this gets around Biden's drilling regulations we talked about. Yeah, so remember we were talking about Biden said you can't drill here, and the only way to overturn that's an act of Congress. You can't do it with an executive order, unlike most executive orders. But it says you can't drill in the Gulf of Mexico. And the United States officially recognizes that body of water as the Gulf of America. Problem solved. Yeah, I don't know exactly, but I imagine this is the motivation. In addition to being hilarious. Welcome to Loaded Talk. I am your congressman, the third most popular candidate to ever be. I am Frank, and along with me, as always...
What's up, Planet Earth? I'm Bean.
Bean. Welcome, Charlie the Bean, to Trump's America. It was, and then it wasn't, but now it is once more. So, obviously, we had the waning days of the Biden administration, followed by the beginning, I guess, day at this point of the Trump administration. You know, so they had all that inauguration stuff yesterday, but he only got sworn in today. Are you the president yesterday or today?
I don't know.
Yeah, like he put his hand on, well, technically he didn't put his hand on the Bible. I guess there was some confusion with Justice John Roberts. So they had Melania had a couple of Bibles at her disposal. There was like the Trump family Bible and then the Abraham Lincoln Bible. So I guess he was going to swear on both of them. And so the thing was like, all right, well, when I say, Mr. President or whatever, when I say, hey, you raise your right hand, that's when Melania's supposed to walk over and bring the Bible. And he goes, boop, boop. And, but he didn't do a dramatic pause. So he's just like, yeah, Mr. Trump, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear? And so he was like, yep. So Melania's walking over there yo, I'm in heels. Maybe that happened yesterday at some point. I don't know. Anyway. But things have gotten started. Now, before we get into the myriad of things that kicked off Trump's deal, which as of 5 o'clock on Tuesday, the 21st, it hasn't been to pardon Ross. So the I was about to say Pirate Bay. That's not it. The Silk Road. The Silk Road founder who's doing consecutive life sentences for making a website that allows people to buy whatever they want. He got consecutive life sentences, whereas the people that were on Nickelodeon that harmed children repeatedly got 3 to 6 years. So we think, probably the decade or so he spent in prison as an ideal prisoner, nonviolent. Dude needs to get out. And Donald Trump did promise to the libertarians, in order to speak to them, that he would release him. And I think he said day one. So I don't know if it's just, by the end of today, maybe that counts as that first 24-hour kind of period. I don't know. But I would like to see it happen. But anyway, so that's the beginning of the Trump era. How did the Biden era end? Because we talked about this last time. Trump has been very active for someone who was not yet president. And Biden had been very active for someone who had just been told they don't want you to be president. This is not the same as a two-term guy, lame ducking, even they chill out. They go, well, wasn't the person I wanted, or it was, or it doesn't matter. I'm not going to do anything. The next person's coming in a week. I'm going to play golf and schmooze rich people and prepare for my life. Maybe that's the big part of it. Biden doesn't have a life outside of the White, because, he's dead. Maybe that is the big part of this. Biden literally has nothing as of today. Pudding.
I mean, he could open an ice cream shop.
You think he can run an ice cream shop?
I mean, he doesn't have to run it.
That's what I'm saying. Who's going to run it? Hunter? Dr. Jill?
Oh, wow. Could be a nice front for another business.
Yeah, well, you know, there's still time for that. Problem is, I think Joe and his ties were the actual brains of the operation for, you know, this whole money collection enterprise. No, nothing alleged in that sentence. But I do think that was kind of Joe's deal, possibly maybe his brother, but I think it's kind of Joe's deal. So Joe has been out to pasture for a couple of years, and so, you know, you don't need to suck up to rich people about your presidential library. I bet you Obama's handling a lot of that stuff for him. And, you know, I don't know. Okay. What year will Joe Biden pass?
2026.
That's pretty quick. Yeah, maybe. I'm gonna go 28. I'm gonna go 28. Because, you know, but, you know, you're not all, the 26. I mean, 25 just started, and he's not going to be getting those same cocktails of whatever lovely things they give him every now and then, you know. It's going to be back to the, hey, you know, he's not great before 10. He's not great after 4. You know, that's just, he likes to watch the water. He likes to feed the ducks. He likes to feed he looks at his Corvette. We say, pop, pop. We don't know where the keys are. You don't get to drive, pop, pop. You know? Oh, back in my day, I was a cat's pajamas in that Corvette. I was kicking ass, slaying tail, sniffing hair. Anyway, so yeah, so he doesn't have better things to do, and, you know, he doesn't have to worry about like a reputation either. And the people who've actually been running the show for this amount of time, they don't have to worry about their reputation either, because they're just ruining his. So this is a long time ago. I don't even know. You probably can't even remember this far back. But 10 days ago, Biden was asked about, you know, pardons, giving more pardons on his way out. And, you know, of course, with mean old President Donald Trump is going to go after his political enemies for no good reason, you know. So how are you going to save everybody? So this is 10 days ago. You know, that's almost 2 weeks, if you can imagine. So like, if you count to 14, but then like 4 fewer than that. So just like this many. Okay. Just want to make sure. It's hard to perceive numbers this big, is what I'm saying. All right, so this is him 10 days ago.
Also, sir, on pardons, have you ruled out a pardon for yourself or any other additional members of the family?
For myself?
Yes, sir.
What would I pardon myself for?
That's what I'm asking.
No, I have no contemplation of pardoning myself for anything. I didn't do anything wrong.
Mr. President, would you comment on Meta's decision to...
Also, sir.
Yeah. So that was... All right, so that was just himself, right? I'm going to try and do the button. That was just himself, right? But there seems an implication there. They go, hey, you going to pardon yourself? And he goes, why would I pardon myself? I didn't do anything wrong. So he says, like, hey, you don't pardon someone if they haven't done a crime. Seems to be what he's implying there. Yeah.
It's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the perspective. So here is, this is a nice super cut. Did you already hit the buttons? Mm-hmm. That's the other thing we're gonna have to figure out how. Let me know when. Who hits the buttons? We have so many nice buttons now. Anyway, a little inside baseball there. We have buttons. No big deal. All right, so here's a little supercut of various Democrat leaders and members of the media, though I repeat myself, discussing pardons for family.
Have you ever heard of somebody getting a preemptive pardon who was innocent of all crime? Who's just an innocent person? Have you ever heard of that? Just somebody getting a blanket pardon and they're an innocent
Asking
person?
Adam Schiff.
But no, it's the president's own family.
They're talking about Trump.
People that have been covering up for the president in addition to his own family.
Is there an innocent explanation for someone to seek preemptive pardons for family members? Would you do that if you knew you were innocent
all these
and just
people look
worried
the
about
same.
outside forces?
The answer to that is going to be no. If you haven't done anything wrong,
my
you sit there and
glasses.
go, what do you need a preemptive pardon for?
If he pardons people preemptively, he's essentially
This is all
telling
asking
the
if Trump
public
should
that these
pardon
people
himself.
have committed crimes. And we may not be aware of what they are, but the pardon is clear evidence that crimes have been committed.
I imagine if he decides to issue these preemptive pardons, it will be cast in a way that he is protecting his family and protecting their reputation.
So just to be clear again, this is all before Trump left office, asking if Trump would just like pardon him and his whole family because of all the crimes and stuff. And all these people are like, that's ridiculous. Like, you can't do that. It means you've been breaking so many crimes. So we got another minute and a half of this.
From, villainous exterior forces that are against him.
First off, we should just take a deep
they all have the
breath
same
and
glasses.
acknowledge the audacity
Yeah,
of
five
a
head.
president who's so clearly concerned about his own criminal culpability and that of his family members.
Why do
pardons
thick
are a
rim
major
glasses?
obsession with him.
The idea of a
there
kind
he is
of
again.
prospective pardon, this
Oh,
sort
Giuliani's got him.
of permanent federal get out of
He's
jail
old.
free card, that seems to be what we're talking about in the case of this, right? With Giuliani and his 3 eldest children who, as far as we know, have not been convicted of a crime. Maybe they've committed a lot, and they don't want to face action. I don't know. It's weird. I wouldn't ask for a
forget his
pardon.
name. It's
I don't
male
think I deserve
Rachel
one
Maddow.
because I don't think I've done anything criminal. But like,
She just gives
where
him the
does that come
glasses
from?
and
That
he's
concept
talking.
that you can just kind of wave your magic pardon wand.
We have Tish James, we have Xavier Becerra, Mimi Rocha
know
is
who
literally
this is.
my
Probably like
DA
him.
in my town. There will be opportunities to prosecute these people regardless if they abuse the pardon power as they are thinking.
I like it. I don't even know
Hopefully,
who he
Ellie,
is or
there
what
will
he's
be a
saying.
skyfall on this entire crime family, and there will be another day for them to die.
President,
Just another day for them to
doesn't
die?
pardon, let's say Rudy Giuliani.
So this is Adam
or
Schiff
any
again,
members of his family.
talking to old Wolf.
Would you see that? And I asked Preet Bharara this question as essentially an admission of guilt.
I certainly would view it that way. I think millions of Americans would view it that way. If there was no belief in criminality, why would he think a pardon was necessary?
CNN has learned President.
Yep. Okay. So we're gonna. I did it. So that was a number of people elected members of our esteemed. Or wait, I was about to say elected journalists. It's hard to. I get them confused. They're just the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, Adam Schiff, who was a big House dude. Did he already won? Yeah, he won the Senate race, right? He's a senator now. Yeah. All right. He was always in the House. He was one that showed up every day saying, I've seen the intelligence on Donald Trump, and he is a Russian agent. Once you get to see what I've seen, you will be convinced. And he was there every day saying the exact same thing. And of course, normal people go, I mean, he's a congressman, and he's on the intelligence committee, and he says he's seen it. And like, obviously, we can't see stuff that's classified still. But, I mean, he hasn't told us anything classified, but he said he's seen it, and they're going to release it. And so he did that every single day. And then, like, everything came out, and it was just like, oh, nothing. Because I think even people who are hesitant to believe journalists and politicians were still, to a degree, just like, I mean, strategically, it seems like you're bluffing pretty hard, and it seems like, I don't know, it was a ballsy move to not have anything. So you got to have something, right? And then ends up, no, they didn't have anything. So, Adam Schiff, it's his style.
Sounds like weapons of mass destruction all over again.
Oh, God.
Got to get the WMDs.
Man, yeah, let's, my weekend is an interesting weekend sometime when family's in town. My dad was discussing who he feels has behaved treasonously and probably deserves to be hanged, and because that's the punishment for treason. And it's like, yeah, I don't disagree. It's like, well, there's some other names. If we start going down this road, like there's like treason, and then there's making horrible decisions. I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those things like it's in official capacity, doing things that are corrupt. But does that fit for treason? And so it's like some of the stuff. It's like, all right, if that's gonna fit, it's like we're gonna need more rope.
Yeah.
We're gonna need a bigger pit. So yeah, it is reminiscent of that. All right, so as we've seen, for the record, without any exception, Biden says you don't need to be pardoned if you haven't committed a crime. Democrats all say if you pardon someone, it means they've done lots of crimes. Excuse me. They've never even heard of people pardoning one's family members when they haven't been charged or anything. That just freaked me out. Just watch you mime that mouse.
So used to it being right there.
Move it back. Freaking me out. I was waiting to see if it worked. All right. So, well, on January 1st, or sorry, not on January 1st, pretty much right as Trump is giving speeches and stuff, Biden is releasing more pardons. So now we've got...
Sending pardons
out. Just get them all out there. Oh, I know what I want. I want full screen. So here's one for... Okay, whatever you said, babe. So, General Mark Milley. He is, of course, someone who started making calls to China to let him know that, like, hey, if you get anything from Trump, don't worry about Trump. Just like, I'm actually in charge. He's not commander-in-chief, even though he was commander-in-chief. So he's making all these calls sort of outside of his scope. And one could make an argument that a general going behind the back of the commander-in-chief to talk to a foreign nation about what the commander-in-chief is and is not going to do against that leader's wishes, that does start to tiptoe on the treason. It does start to tiptoe. So Milley, who's obviously not done a crime, he's got a pardon. And it starts January 1st, 2014.
Wow.
2014, Charlie.
10 years.
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah. It's, let's see. All right, this is 25, right? So 2024. Yeah, 2020, 2016. So yeah, this is like the last half of the second term of the Obama term, Obama Biden. So there's something interesting there we'll get to. Another pardon was issued for Dr. Anthony Fauci. And look at that date, January 1st, 2014, until now. And so no matter what he's done in those 10 years, he's all right. And, according to Adam Schiff, according to NBC and CNN and everybody in the press, these pardons mean that General Milley and Dr. Fauci have committed crimes that require federal crimes that require pardons, according to them. Now, there was always that rumor. There was always the rumor that in 2014, they started trying to manufacture a bioweapon in using a coronavirus in Wuhan, China. And that was around the time they started working on engineering a virus. Now, this is of course just a rumor. It is not backed by lots of information, but there's little information that points to it. And so to go back to the beginning of 2014, which is possibly after Obama said no more gain-of-function research, and then they said, well, if we give money to a pass-through, and then we can go over here, and then we can develop this virus that used to only pass to animals, but we're going to engineer it to pass to human beings. Maybe it'd be a good bioweapon, maybe not, who knows? But at least we're working with China on that. Well, what could be wrong with what could go wrong with working with another nation on a potential bioweapon? Well, no one's going to use it. You're best friends, you know? Like, it can't happen. It'll be fine. So those, they've got their thing. And then we've got, all right, I'm figuring out my buttons. Now here's another one. To all whom these presents shall come, what the hell? To all to whom these presents shall come greeting. All right. Be it known that this day I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., President of the United States, pursuant to my powers under Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 of the Constitution, have granted unto James Biden, Sarah Jones Biden, Valerie Biden Owens, John T. Owens, Francis W. Biden, a full and unconditional pardon for any nonviolent offenses against the United States. It's just, that may have committed or taken part in from January 1st, 2014 through the date of this pardon. I have hereunto signed my name. Ooh, it'd been fun to compare that to, remember those weird signatures that popped up? I think that one's the straight line. I think they got squirrely later. This one you don't want to mess up. You're going to copy it straight. So, no one has ever heard of giving an unconditional pardon to family members, just blanket unconditional pardon. And yet, here we are. 10 days after Biden said, I don't need a pardon. I haven't done anything wrong. He gives it to his brother and all sorts of other relatives who show up in Joe Biden's tax returns for loans and forgiven loans and, just silly little accounting flubs that may or may not have begun when, much like Obama in his last 2 years, was probably beginning to talk to people like Netflix about these production deals for their $100 million or what have you, and talking to fundraisers about the presidential library. Joe, who, when he got selected to be VP, was one of the brokest senators in Congress, which it's a service job, and that's good. But also it shows that you're too stupid to figure out how to make money in the gig, or you're so corrupt you're great at hiding it. I think he was the former, and then after he became vice president, he was just like, people were like, what are you doing? You're vice president for 4 more years. You got to figure something else. They don't pay vice presidents to do speaking engagements, at least not that much. What are you going to do? Go back to Delaware and just do nothing? It's So I think that's when some of those Ukraine wheels got turning. And anyway, it's totally on the up and up. We know because the press told us so.
Non-violent offenses.
Non-violent offenses.
So if either of them committed some battery, well,
yeah,
so much for your pardon.
Yeah, but if you just smoke crack with, and let's keep in mind, Hunter has already gotten a pardon. So Hunter already had this. So obviously, his old Frank and Jim and these cats, they must be in the same kind of stuff that Hunter's into. That's all I don't know. I mean, they got the same pardon that Hunter got. So, everybody was focusing on Inauguration Day, and that it's all right, this is it. That's all over. They slid these things out just to be like, oh, yeah, we don't really want to talk about it. So here, we don't need to go to the graphic, but this is the pardons of the last few presidents. George W. Bush gave an even 200. Barack Obama, comparatively, 1,927. Now, you could also say, Democrat presidents who have more criticism over the judicial system They're often looking to make things less prosecutorially friendly, so it can make sense. All right, Donald Trump drops back down to 237, so kind of in line with the W numbers. Joe Biden, so, Barack Obama was just under 2,000, so of course Joe Biden was 8,064. So 4 times that as old Barry.
What if he had started earlier? Jesus.
I mean, I think, to be honest, I think part of it, like, remember when he did that swath of like 6,000 or something? I think a lot of that was just to not talk about Hunter Biden. I think it was just a smokescreen. They go, yeah, it's Hunter, but that was just part of the giant thing that we did. And they were like, what about the Chinese spies in there? Like, we don't listen. Like, what about the Chinese spies that had kitty? I don't know what I'm supposed to say on these things. Child exploitation material. There we go.
Well said.
Thank you. I'm a professional. And there's like, let's not talk about that. It's like, okay, because there seems to be a good number of these people who are either convicted as spies or child exploitation material. So we're just letting them go. And it was like, you got it, Jack. I'm gonna give it a little. All right. So, I don't know. You got anything else on Biden's final moments?
No, the numbers are just astonishing.
Well, figures don't lie. We speak of human disease. All right, let me see. So I got this like super cut. Basically, so yesterday there was Trump did a number of events. So first is the inauguration. So was that Bible thing during that? Why did I don't know. My timeline's all messed up.
He had his like
swearing in.
He had his party the day before that too.
Well, there was a couple parties because like there was a party like last night. So they had like the inauguration thingy, and then the parade was inside at the whatever center, the arena, because it was so damn cold. But there was also a luncheon, and then after all that, he goes back and he chills in his office and signs more executive orders while doing an impromptu press conference. Which, I mean, as much as the press is gonna hate on the guy, and welcome to it, but like compare like Joe Biden to like get time with that man without people like keeping you, at a distance. Even Obama, but like Trump was literally just like, I'm gonna sit here signing executive orders, just spitball questions at me and I'll just talk about it. And like I'm sure he picked some of the people in there, like, he's not a fool, but that is Trump's way. He really likes attention, and now when he starts shooting off, he'll never totally say, I don't know about that. He'll spitball, but we'll see how it works out, And so there are times that he says things that that people write articles about, and it never comes to be. My rule in Trump's first term, and I was trying to teach old salty Jimmy this, was just, and in the military, they didn't necessarily have the same sort of grace because, Commander-in-Chief says something. Is that an order? Like if he tweets something saying our military is going to do this tomorrow, like tomorrow, And so, but my whole thing was like, Trump says a lot of stuff. Wait 2.5 weeks and then see what the actual policy is. And a lot of times the things that would upset me the most would be, it's like, I can't believe he would even suggest that. Like, that's such a violation of da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then like some policy comes out, you go, oh, I mean, that's all right. But anyway, so, but the access he gives these people, where it's just, he walks to the helicopter and he just stops and goes, hey, you can talk for a while. He'll talk for 45 minutes, an hour, just like not a planned press conference. It's the gaggle where, where, people wave typically. And like Trump walks over to him and is just like, let's talk about things, like he likes it. So, I mean, as much as people, they're going to hate on the guy, of course, as much as people have their differences, especially members of the press. I mean, it would be nice to hear a little recognition of, even if he says stupid things and everything he stands for I hate, but he is always willing to talk to us, just something like that. Because for all of his faults, he does not hide from the press. you know. All right, so this is a supercut from. Okay, so one of the interesting things about this inauguration speech, he got into, I guess, a lot of things that were going to end up being executive orders later in that day. So this is a 2-minute little supercut. It just hops around. I don't know, everything's in there, but it gives a nice little summary. I was listening to the speech while planting my banana trees because this is Florida. That's how we do it. Listen to speeches with planting nanners. All right.
Pennsylvania field, an assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then and believe even more so now that my life was saved for a reason.
People still legitimately to this day think that he paid someone to shoot at him for this election. That they had somebody that was able to shoot his ear without exploding his head.
While he's like animated up there.
Yeah, well, he's like, it's not like
very animated.
Yeah, they didn't have his head stable. Well, I got to wear this head stabilizer today and not move, you know, with this can on my head. No, like, there's legitimately people today that still think that. It's insane.
Listen, I was saved by God to make America great again. Today, our government confronts a crisis of trust.
That's
For
true.
many years, a radical and corrupt establishment has extracted power and wealth from our citizens while the pillars of our society lay broken and seemingly in complete disrepair. First, I will declare a national emergency at our southern border.
And I feel like most presidents talk more generally.
America's decline is over.
Yeah, like that.
As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only 2 genders, male and female.
Dangly doos and the dangly
Citizens,
don'ts.
January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day. And we have something that no other manufacturing nation will ever have, the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we are going to use it. And above all, China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China, we gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
So this is, some, I know. He's got a way of saying words. It's just great.
We didn't give it to him.
We didn't give it
back.
But it's true, that was one of the things with Panama Canal. It was like, all right, we had an agreement about how things, just all right, make it even for everybody. But, China's got a bit of a lock on it. And it would be, we talked about it last time, it would be potentially problematic to have that thing on lock. What was he saying right before Panama? Well, one of his big themes.
Oil
the oil stuff. Yeah, I think we do have lots of oil, whether like Anwar up in Alaska, even in Texas. There's areas that the problem has been technology that it's there. It's just impossible to drill. Some of the slant drilling, all that kind of stuff has solved that. But I don't know. I do think we have a lot of oil. But I think, I think he wants the oil set up to come out of the ground. We'll then pump it out and then have everybody panic about that and drop oil prices and go, all right, well, we'll keep buying from the Saudis at a cheap rate, but we're going to have this stash of oil that is our own that we will have. And in case of war, we have oil generation right here set up and stuff set aside. Because at the very least, if you're talking to, if you're in negotiations, hopefully trying to avoid like a world war, and someone goes, we can shut you down, kind of like Russia to Europe. It's like, you will freeze to death. Like, why don't we just freeze you to death? Suddenly you go, But, all right, let's see what the rest of this little clip is. We'll talk about some stuff. Panama Canal.
Launching American astronauts to plant the stars and stripes on the planet Mars.
That's right. Mars.
A short time from now, we are going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier. I'm pleased to say that as of yesterday, one day before I assumed office, The hostages in the Middle East are coming back home to their families.
Slowly, but it's true.
The golden age of America begins right now.
So, Mars, Greenland, Panama. That's he did at some point use the term manifest destiny. Now, that perhaps sounds like a term that's supposed to sound godly or whatever. Of course, manifest destiny was how we decided that it was God's will for us to conquer this entire continent, or as much as possible. And we did. And there's the Trail of Tears, and there were some unhappy results from manifest destiny. For every Louisiana purchase, there was, Trail of Tears. So, in this kind of talk, he's been the first president in a while that has talked about, because he said something about adding territory, or adding something like territory. I forget the word he used. Now, he did go from that to segue into Mars, and he was talking about Panama Canal around that same time. So, it could be as simple as retaking control of Panama Canal and planting the flag on Mars, new territory, new beyond. I noticed you rolled your eyes on the Mars thing. What you thinking?
Well, I mean, he's obviously got a little birdie in his ear about Mars. So
What? Who would do that?
So it's just kind of coincidental,
Yeah, it was right. It was on the nose. Yeah.
I'm sure Elon was like, yes, he said it. He said it.
Elon was, yes, very much like that. Okay, and real quick before we get into too much of the actual mechanics of what was done, it was the weirdest thing. So, I didn't work yesterday because of Martin Luther King Day, and so I had my morning coffee, and I was kind of looking at what time it was. It's like, when I don't have to do anything, I like to drink coffee and read the news, because I am an old man and I enjoy it. I don't care. And at some point I go, that's enough. And I kind of, walk it. All right. And so I was like, let me just see if there's any, because I couldn't remember. I'm like, I think things happen at noon or something. So I turned on the TV onto the Blaze coverage there, and you start looking around. I was just like, and the kid was out there. I was like, holy crap. I was like, that's Jeff Bezos. I was like, that's Elon Musk. That's Zuckerberg. That's the CEO of Google. That's, you're just going through and they're not in the crowd. They're behind him because they all threw like $1 million at his inauguration fund, because there's no limit on a party donation, So all these cats were dropping millies. And you get it. Like Bezos, he's got that AWS he needs to get going. And like Bill Gates is already kind of a persona non grata. So it's like, we don't want Microsoft winning a bid just because I owned a newspaper that used to talk trash about you a lot, and you mentioned it specifically and you didn't like it. So it's like, hey, a little milli, just a little milli. Zuckerberg, he says he's happy that the world has gone back into a free speech, a lack of censorship mode. Or he's kissing butt and don't want to be punished. And so he's going to slide a little mill that way. Elon's Elon. Obviously, he is the mightiest of the social medias for the next 4 years. And then, who else? Oh, Google. Well, some of that might...
Tim Cook was there, too.
Tim Cook was there, too. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And so that was the thing. You look through and you're just like, damn. And that was all... I started realizing that it was broken up by party, kind of. But the thing was, on the right side, it was Biden and it was Kamala, and then behind them, Hillary and Bill, and I think Obama was back there somewhere. No Big Mike, and you gotta respect it at least. The reason that she didn't go to Jimmy Carter's funeral. She had a scheduling conflict. Do you know what that conflict was? Her Hawaiian vacation. She's like, I'm not coming back in for that.
Sorry, Jimmy.
Sorry. She's like, I don't even like that guy. Like, what the hell? Like, I don't even like that guy. He sucks. And so she's like, I'm not doing it. And Brian, well, I'm a former president. I have to go. She's like, go. Like, go. I'm going to be in Hawaii.
He's like, I'll see you later.
Yeah, like, okay. Like, I'm not a former president. And that's how you know, like, when they go, oh, Michelle Obama could win. It's like, I don't think she wants any piece of that. She's $100 millionaire now, and she doesn't have to deal with this, like, white boys club. And, like, she don't want any part of it, you know?
Yeah, Kelly was telling me she never wanted to be in part of politics at all.
She is, what was her quote? The first time she was ever proud of the country was when Barack Obama was elected or something like that. Like, she's definitely the radical of the relationship. She is, like, the more strong in her opinions. And those opinions are fairly, like... I don't know if it's anti-American, but, you know, the whole changing our traditions and changing, you know, all that kind of stuff that she was talking about. Like, that's her thing. Like Barry, you know, he goes along to get along. He was Barry until it was like, hey, let's try out this Barack thing, you know?
Kind of explains that Netflix movie then, too. I bet that's her.
Was that their romance one or the
one?
Oh, the End of Days kind of stuff.
Don't look behind or don't look back.
I still haven't watched it. Yeah, but it's one of those like
leave the world behind, something like that.
The end of. Honestly, with that, I think both of them very much enjoyed hobnobbing with Jay-Z and Beyonce and all the stars. Like they brought stars through the White House when they were in there, and especially like prominent African American stars. But they bring them through and just like, they're making friendly, and then they got a Hollywood gig, which makes them bosses with cash to spend on Hollywood things. And they both, I think they both like that very much. But she won. I mean, she won. She is a multimillionaire that doesn't need anybody's BS. Her daughters are going to go to they might be out of school. I was going to say they can go to any school that they want, but
yeah, I think they're out.
Yeah, well, either way. So generational wealth has been established, and so she's won. She does not want to go to Jimmy Carter's funeral. She doesn't want to go to Donald Trump. She hates Donald Trump. Like she's she's like, I'm not going to go there. And somebody in her camp, not her, but someone in her camp, off the record or on the condition of anonymity, basically said she ain't a phony. And it's like, it's true.
I respect that.
Yeah. I mean, like, Trump didn't go to Biden's inauguration. He's like, that guy cheated. I don't like him. And, I mean, that's what he's like. He cheated. He didn't earn this. I'm not signing off, and I'm not going to go and support this. And she's just like, hey, I hate that guy. He's a pompous or whatever, She's like, I'm not going. I got to get a, massage and a facial or something. Hire a new chef. But anyway, so half the thing, you had former presidents and Congress people and all the like elderly, like we are running the country. Yeah. And then the other half that was supposed to be like the Republicans or whatever, but it was Elon and Vivek, and then the leaders of all the tech industries. And you just go in, like there's probably the Speaker of the House is in there somewhere. But you start looking around, you're like, that's a stacked deck over on that side, not just of the elderly and infirmed that run this nation. You got anything before I go on to this? All right. I couldn't tell if you were about to hop in. Bloop. Wait. All right. I'm doing things. All right. So this is, I don't know who the hell Dissident Media is, but they have a thread of the different executive actions. Oh, no. I might need to refresh this thing. Did we log in? Oh, hell. Okay. Yeah, let's do this. So we're back on that. I think we're going to need to log in to Twitter here in order to get through the thread. So if you do that. And I know in my Proton Pass, let's see. But anyway, so Trump came out with a whole bunch of things. Here, let me see that real quick. I was gonna try and sign it. I'm like, what am I doing? All right. So it'll show up in there. There you go. You can just tap it to copy and tap it over. Just tap, tappy. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, yeah, can paste that in. So he had a whole bunch of. Let me just hop back over to here and grab it from right there. He had a bunch of executive orders queued up, and he kind of teased it for a while. You know, a lot of it's based on everything you would expect, you know. And so here's just going to rattle through some. We can talk on some or not, you know. All right, so starting off here, we have the Restoring Freedom of Speech and Ending Federal Censorship. So this one is kind of what it sounds like. It says federal government should not be involved with censoring speech, and also so everybody stop it immediately if you're trying to censor what people say on the internet. Then also, yeah, exactly. Like immediately stop suppressing or soliciting suppression of misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation, and directs the Attorney General to investigate such practices in the past. So that's kind of the sweet spot there. Was not only is it saying, hey, stop, it says, let's look into what happened in the past. So this one, you know, executive orders are a funky thing, and that sometimes they are used as a replacement for law, you know, legislature, and you know, Congress is supposed to make laws, president's not, but the president's the head of the executive agencies, so guiding the direction of the executive agencies is something that makes sense. Now, to make it permanent so that the next person doesn't just go, oh, my guidance is to get back on the censoring, you know, you need the Congress to pass a law saying that the federal government shall not, which it should be part of the First Amendment, but either way, if you just really want to hammer it home, federal government shall not be involved in the censorship of private citizens on social media or what have you. But anyway, so it's going to be investigated. So these are all things signed yesterday. Ending the weaponization of the federal government. This order is an audit of all agencies with law or civil enforcement capability to identify if they have engaged in targeting of political opponents, and orders the DNI to do the same thing with all intelligence agencies. So once again, this is investigating federal agencies for weaponizing the legal system against a political opponent, like Trump, you know, but anybody else. One might say January 6th people. All right. If there's any that sound fun, feel free to holler. These have to be AI images. This is great. All right. This executive order directs the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, to recommend designating cartels and transnational orgs such as MS-13 as foreign terrorist organizations or specially designated global terrorists to eliminate their presence and threat to U.S. security. Now that's an interesting one.
Especially since MS-13 is in this country heavily.
Yeah. MS-13, like we helped create them, I'm pretty sure. Was it the Zetas? We created one of them, or both. But it is one of those interesting things you go, I don't know, like we have overreached a great deal in the war on terror. But what I think it helps communicate possibly to Mexico is like, hey, now, like, see what we've done in the Middle East? Not great. We can do it in Mexico because you're harboring terrorist groups and they're part of your government. You know, you're a narco state. Now, I think the gal that won president there, I mean, she obviously has to be connected. The number of her opponents that stopped being able to breathe, that she just made it through.
And she's so Mexican, too, let me tell you.
Is she not?
No, she's a Jew.
Oh, that's right, she is.
Yeah.
She's a Juxican.
Right, exactly.
Mexican.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, Mexican spicy. It's a little spicy matzo.
She smells like a plant all day.
So, but she's born. I mean, she's like Mexican, right?
I have no idea. I think she's married to
No.
Mexican.
Yeah, we're gonna Google this real quick. We have to.
I don't know how she's. I don't.
They can have
I guess
Jews
she
in
was.
Mexico.
She would be Mexican, married a Jew. How that came to be, I don't know.
Oh, that might be. She might not be like birth Jewish. Mexican president. We're getting to the bottom of this. We're
But
solving.
yeah,
it.
you're right. Everybody she was up against went poof.
Yeah, everyone's just like here's a tough person, like Claudia Scheinbaum. That's right. That's a. She's first woman to hold office. Good on her. Get on. Come on. Get
In Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah. No. That's born Claudia Scheinbaum Parda. Oh, that's right. Like in Mexico, they have different naming conventions for last names. Parents are Carlos Scheinbaum. Oh, Carlos Scheinbaum Yoselevitz.
It's also Jewish.
Yeah, and Annie Pardo Jamo. Let's see who these people are. They all have pages too.
So the Jewish background goes multiple generations.
Her mom was a cell biologist, specialized in the study of extracellular matrix. Member of the something. Who's this other dude? Because they both have Wikipedia pages. Mexican businessman and chemical engineer, known for his contributions to the leather tanning industry in Mexico. Okay, so I mean, dude's he's a Mexican Jew. You know? Yeah.
Huh.
He's just
all right.
They exist, Charlie, you intolerant piece of garbage.
Shalom.
Shalom. But it is one of those things. I don't know what kind of pressure that'll put on a Mexico to be like, you need to start cleaning this up because, like, we're going to start cleaning it up. And if you think that any foreign nation, and I am not advocating for this, I'm just saying from a point of negotiating, if you go, hey, which nation do you think is going to jump in to help you when we cross our border? You know, and like Russia's sitting there going like, see, they like to do it too, you know, but it is that same thing where it's just like, you know, Russia's probably, maybe Russia, maybe China to come in and, you know, we turn this into a Ukraine part 2. It could happen. But really, like, do we want to start this? We don't want to start this. None of us want to start this. At the end of the day, this will do something. The only solution is legalizing all drugs. Like, you know, they exist because of the black market, and then they diversify. But
so the CIA can't sell them to Mexico anymore?
Man, the CIA's position in the international drug sales is a big question mark, isn't it? Because, like, once you get past the 80s, like, did we ever hear that they divested? Right? You know, we go, oh, the Sandinistas, they're running all this cocaine, and maybe they invented crack. And it's like, oh, man, why did they do that? And then it's like, did they divest? Because you know what is profitable? Cocaine. And if they've been running a cocaine ring since the 80s, they have so much off-book money. Like, imagine the power of someone that is like top flight international drug cartel, but also has the full backing of the U.S. military. And it's just like, they're getting paid. And I don't know. And that's the funny thing. Like, I wonder if there's ever going to be a time where, kind of like in Marvel, where you go against Hydra, where it's like the U.S. versus the CIA, you know, where it's just like, well, they've got their own things going here, and like they don't want to stop. And we go, yeah, but for real, we can't have drug cartels. Or, you know, maybe when you legalize it, you go, good news, they just incorporate. You know, they incorporate as cocaine limited and unlimited. And then, you know, it's like, there we go, look at that company. And then no one knows it's a CIA front, but now it's more off-book money, and we're still screwed.
They have really good ideas for the CIA, man.
Hey, they're not even real. I should run the CIA. We can do this good. That's it. New plan. I'm running the CIA. All right, let me see. Remembering how to do this. All right. Is this another one? Proclamation signed to direct federal agencies to take all necessary actions to secure the southern border, prevent unauthorized entry, and protect against invasion. This is pretty true to brand. Okay, this is a fun one. Executive order mandates all federal departments and employees to immediately begin transitioning to in-person work and end, or initiate a plan to end, all remote practices. The number of buildings that sit at a capacity below 10% because everyone's doing remote work, sell the buildings, sell the buildings. And Mark Andreessen was talking about how, I don't think it was him, I think it was a friend of his that was also an exec in the tech business. After everyone started going remote, he went and he bought, there's like physical mouse movers you can buy like from China.
Yeah.
He bought all of them, and he kind of, because they all have pretty much its own, a pattern. They do their movements. It's not a complicated bit of machinery. It's just something to move every now and then, So he programmed all of them in, and when you work for these companies, you authorize things like tracking mouse movements, all this sort of stuff. And so he just downloaded all of everyone's mouse movements, and you ran it through this program to see how many were using those things, and it was like everybody, like everybody was using them. So imagine if you work at the federal government where you have no expectations. Like, what are you gonna do? Not be profitable and have to answer to somebody? It's just shuffling papers and calling people. IRS has a quota, which is kind of messed up. Like they have attack dogs and they need to close on their cases and all that kind of stuff. But all these other people don't got. So now it's like, all right, you got to come back to work. And the thing is, I think a lot of these people, I remember reading articles about remote work people that are like, you know what? I'm going to buy a cabin in Tennessee because I don't have to be in Manhattan for my job. I don't have to be in DC for my job. It's like, I'll be here. Like, that'd be nice. Low taxes too. And it's like, all right, now what? So I agree with this. Like, see how many people you can get to quit because they don't want to come back to in person. It's not going to be 0%. Is it 10, 25%?
And you can still sell the buildings in the long run too.
You sure can. And that's the thing. Even if there's some rules against firing employees, they quit. You don't have to fill them,
Yep.
See, on that note, that might be this next one. Dissident Media did a good job with their images. Okay. It signed a mandate, reinstate the name Mount McKinley for North America's highest peak, and directs the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. The Mount McKinley thing's kind of silly to me. Oh, like, that's another thing my dad's real gung-ho about. He's like, damn right. It's like, that's its name. I'm like, it was called Denali before. It was called Mount McKinley. He's like, who gives a shit? Sounds good. But it's like, all right, like, I don't, whatever.
Seriously.
Like, I don't care. Gulf of America, I find hilarious, and I'm going to adopt it immediately because it's hilarious. But also, I think this gets around Biden's drilling regulations we talked about. Yeah, so, like, remember we were talking that Biden said you can't drill here, and the only way to overturn that's an act of Congress. You can't do it with an executive order, unlike most executive orders. But it says you can't drill in the Gulf of Mexico. And if the United States officially recognizes that body of water as the Gulf of America,
interesting.
Problem solved. Yeah, so I don't know exactly, but I imagine this is the motivation.
Interesting.
In addition to being hilarious. All right, regulatory. Oh, this is the other part. So this prevents any new rules of law from going into the Federal Register until a Trump admin reviewer has checked them for consistency with it. So no new regulations. Don't make any regulations until we can review them. This will kind of be a Doge thing. Look at this. Eliminates federal DEI programs and mandates. and mandates hiring, contracting, and other decisions be based on merit without regard to race, sex, or other identity factors, aiming to reduce waste and restore fairness. Which used to be was a big fight to say you're not allowed to hire on race, you know. And then at some point they were like, well, you got to hire on race because you need to hire this many people of color. And you go, yeah, right. And so even if they're not as good, they're like, even if it's not as good. And then they go, all right, now you really need to hire. Like, because that was at, oh shit, what was it called? Like in the 90s, they called it, when you,
Affirmative action.
Affirmative action, yeah. And so that was kind of a lightweight thing. But I remember, like, looking back on it, it's kind of quaint. You know, it's like, oh, it's cute to be angry because, you know, they'd turn that thing up all the way. And
I think it did the wrong thing, though. Like, aside from what the goal was, I think it did the opposite.
It did. Well,
it just made people lazy.
Well, it
like, you don't go through life guaranteeing I'm going to get all this.
Well, it didn't guarantee stuff for everybody, but what it did is, like, if you had a very hardworking person of color, as we're supposed to say these days, but say you had somebody that was just gung-ho, you know, some black dude that was like, I'm good at this, gung-ho, gets a job. Well, you know, the affirmative action is supposed to be that way, to be like, in the white boys club, in the old boy club, it's a way to get your foot in the door without having to be a white guy at the country club, you know. The problem is when you got in, even if you earned it because you smoked everybody, they said, it's an affirmative action hire. And so, like, it always cast a shadow on the accomplishments of anybody who earned it and happened to not be white or Asian. But it was like, affirmative action hire, you know. So people were then just dismissing people who did earn the job. And then, of course, you'll have a company that maybe is not as big and they have a candidate that is perfect for the job that they can't hire because they need to hire someone of a different skin color. And you just go like, you know, it's all around not good, you know. Merit base is the best. I think, you know, some companies do something where they leave names off of resumes, you know, because I don't know, you know, a name that sounds like a black person's name or an Asian name or Hispanic name or whatever might help tilt you in different way, like decision making. So like, all right, I'm okay. You leave the name off, do the resumes, and then like rank them, you know. And then, like, I don't know, if you're so damn racist that once they come in, you go, I'm not going to hire that one. Well, that's going to get around. It's probably going to affect you. But you know, I think that's a simple voluntary measure one can take to make sure you have a diverse workplace, or at least that you don't have somebody that's going to skip over somebody based on ethnicity or whatever. All right, here's another one. This is one of the ones that I find to be challenging. Delivering emergency price relief for American families and defeating the cost of living crisis. This order is the head of all executive departments and agencies to deliver emergency price relief, don't like it, to the greatest extent applicable by law. All right. Remove climate policies, reduce home prices, lower healthcare costs, and create new employment opportunities. Which a lot of that sounds squirrely. Did they not give us a link to this one?
All over the place.
Yeah, so I looked it up yesterday. I thought the link was going to be here. But it seems, and I need to read it again, it seems like what it's telling these people to do is look for regulation that causes costs to go up and eliminate them. Which, if that's the order, I like it, you know. Are there climate policies? Are there DEI policies? Are there things like this that have caused prices to go up on whatever the hell? What about policies that cause energy prices to go up? Let's eliminate those. So if we're talking about eliminating regulation, I'm in favor. It's just some of it looks like it's getting close to price controls, and that I do not like.
I mean, the easy way out would just be to get rid of the EPA.
That would be wonderful. That would be a great one. Get rid of the EPA, get rid of...
We can start making our paper products again instead of buying it all from China. We don't make any paper products. I don't think we're allowed to.
What the hell do we do with all the trees that we tear down for those paper companies?
I think we sent him to China, honestly.
I mean, I wouldn't actually be surprised.
All our scrap aluminum, send it to China.
Yeah, man, I saw this video out of Bali, like beautiful ass Bali that I want to go to someday just to get there and be like, yeah, we got beaches in Florida too. But it looks beautiful. But it was I forget, like 1,500 tons of plastic that just washed up on the shores because China dumps a bunch of the stuff of the trash they take from us, But yeah, I wouldn't be all that shocked if we cut down trees, shipped them to, I would think we probably would ship them to Mexico or something like that. But I do know there are like tree farm and like paper companies here, but maybe you make boxes with them, or I don't know. So what's the deal? Is it just price while we go to China, or is it?
I honestly think it just has to do with the paper manufacturing process.
Like the EPA stuff?
It's dirt. I mean, the dust alone is highly flammable and toxic if you inhale it,
Let's see. All right. All right, withdrawal from the Paris Agreement. Okay. Don't hire anybody. So we're freezing federal hirings unless they're absolutely necessary. Commuting the sentences of 14 political prisoners and grants a full pardon to all other convicted of offenses related to J6. So, as he calls them, the January 6th hostages. I like that wording. So he basically pardoned all of them. Good. Because 4 years ago this happened. And some of these people were still waiting on a trial in jail and to be charged with misdemeanors. It's ridiculous. Charge them, sentence them, whatever it is. You go, well, it's a first time offense, but you got 3 misdemeanors here. And you tell them they got to do 6 months in pokey. I think it's strong, but whatever. If it's within sentencing guidelines, fine. But to hold somebody for 3 years to then be like, all right, time served. It's like, no, it's not. You can't give me a refund on the time. If you're going to give me 6 months and I've done 3 years, how do you compensate me for my time? And my time's expensive. Look at this person. All right. Executive order to ensure federal policies reflect biological definitions of sex, protecting women's rights, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we're getting rid of all the gender stuff. Back to the binary. Grants a temporary halt of the TikTok ban. Oh, this is an interesting one. So he says that TikTok is worth nothing if it's shut down, right? But if he says it can go, it's worth something. And so if we're going to facilitate a sale to an American owner to allow TikTok to continue, because he's a fan of TikTok, then it could be worth, $1 billion, $1 trillion. And but he thinks that it should be a joint, it should be a partnership where the U.S. gets half the proceeds of the sale, which I think is something where you can't force someone to sell their property and then also give you half. I'm opposed to that. If ByteDance does say, we're willing to sell it to an American, because that's the thing too with Trump. Sometimes he starts crazy to get somewhere normal. And maybe, I don't know.
He tried it during the first presidency, though.
Selling TikTok?
He tried to convince Microsoft to buy it.
Yeah. I think...
and then it just, disappeared. I don't know. Just stopped talking about it.
Yeah, Elon talked about it. I mean, we'll see what happens with it. I don't know. I'm not a fan of the tech... this is where I stand on the TikTok ban. It's stupid. They don't collect any more data than the rest of them. Also, it's definitely a weapon of China.
Yep.
So that's where I stand. It's a weapon of China, but Facebook is horrible. Could be worse. Google is horrible. Could be worse. Neither one of those are a weapon of America. So if we want to talk about a threat, and I think our tech industry could be an asset of ours, but that's I don't know. I'm talking about threats. It's they're all threats. So what do we do? All right. Establish Doge, of course. And then here's a good one. Withdrawing from the WHO, the World Health Organization. So we're out, which is good. They suck. We pay money for them. The UN reached out and was or maybe it was WHO, was oh, we hope you reconsider. And hopefully we do not. I hope we stay out of it. And I hope we get out of all sorts of things. You know, we don't need to be entangled. We don't need this entanglement, especially stuff over in Europe. What else we got? America first, foreign policy, blah, blah, blah. Turn accountability to policy influencing positions within the federal workforce. Is this a new one? This order makes it easier for supervisors to remove problem employees. Okay, that's about firing everybody.
That's Trump.
Yeah. Directs the DNI to immediately investigate any political weaponization of intelligence agencies. Also revokes the security clearances of John Bolton specifically and any other public officials engaged in proper disclosures. Love that. Strip the mustache power. He also, like, everybody that signed on the Hunter Biden story, he stripped all of them of their clearances. And he fired a couple people by order. So it's 6 o'clock now. Yeah, these are new. They've been updating these. I didn't even see all these. National emergency, southern border.
I can't imagine my name being on an executive order.
They're like, Charlie doesn't get access.
Right. Kick him out.
Immediately grants clearance to specific individuals that have been working at the White House. So they're pushing through stuff. Holy cow. What is all this? Tariffs. Enforces other border-related, clarifying the military's role in protecting the territorial integrity. So, military at the border, unleashing American energy. I think that's the Anwar one. Nope. Sorry, fella. AI fella. Okay. God, they just keep going, man. He's been signing like crazy, obviously. Protecting the meaning and value of America. Ends birthright. Oh, yeah. So, he wants to end birthright citizenship. This is going to be a tough one. Because it's like the 14th Amendment. I don't know. I don't know what he's doing about that. That's probably one that's going to fail. But, holy cow, what all we got? I'm trying to wrap this.
Yeah, I have mixed emotions about the 14th Amendment.
I understand 14th Amendment was supposed to be like, yes, they were slaves. They're Americans, you know? And now it's like, all right, well, I had a baby. I have an anchor baby. And I know it's not the purpose of it, but if people are here, I don't know, like, is the flip side of that is if you're American parents, they go, well, if your parents are American, it's like if your parents are American or have legal status, I don't know. It's just one of those tough things. Like if you don't have legal status in that moment, but then your parents get legal status, now does the little baby have to apply for legal status? And all this immigration stuff's kind of whack. What are your thoughts?
It's just the whole, the argument when it dives down into, well, if the kids are on the school property, they can't be touched. But it's like, well, they can't sleep on the school property, so ICE just waits for them to leave.
Yeah. God, just keeps going. Beautiful. Mandates classical architectural heritage for all federal civic buildings require local community input. Sounds like he wants to make pretty buildings, which I'm kind of in favor of that. If you're going to build a building, make it pretty. Restore the death penalty for capital sentences. All right, I'm not a huge fan of that. This is an interesting one. This will be the last one. Putting people over fish. This is him specifically trying to fix California. So, as we talked about, there used to be that big lake at the bottom of California. All that water goes somewhere else. Now there's no lake. Now they're dry all the time. Now they did get rainfall before this fire, but obviously they've got issues with water getting everywhere. And so this one, he's just like, look, you have to stop. You have to stop with this Delta felch. This Delta smelt fish.
Hope we don't get shadow banned for that.
I know. Listen, if you've never been on an airplane that had a nice Delta felch. But this will be an interesting 10th Amendment kind of thing. What can the federal government really do in terms of, because all the waterway regulation does tend to lean towards the federal government, for better or worse. So it's I think on an environmental basis, if all your water flows a certain way, I mean, unless it's putting humans in danger, which probably doesn't since it was there first, let it flow that way. Like we ruin it with the Everglades. We do stupid stuff with that. And it would be a lot better if we didn't, but we do. But that's the weird thing about this. It's like for environmentalism, they're doing something that is opposite of how the Earth operated before they did it, you know? So, all right. So all that to say, Trump's been getting busy. Hopefully by now he's freed Ross. We'll find out. I hope he doesn't wait too long. What have been some of your thoughts about this whirlwind couple days?
It's, the show goes on, I guess.
Yep.
I always just go back to the first presidency. Like you said, he says a lot of things. He makes a lot of promises. Let's see
what he does.
Yeah.
Apparently Rand Paul wrote a letter today urging Donald Trump to free Ross.
Wow, that's very nice.
Yeah, good job, Rand Paul. I support that. All right, well, we're going to see how... things are going fast. This might be fun. Like the last time he was president, the news cycles were all about stupid stuff. Like did he say a meansy thing about whatever the hell? This time, I don't know. He looks like he's going in swinging. Imagine with Doge up and running, maybe Elon starts swinging. We've seen Vivek is now going to be running for governor of Ohio, which would be a lot better than that DeWine turd. DeWine named the replacement for J.D. Vance. He named his lieutenant governor as the senator, his own lieutenant governor. And so it's like, well, you basically were like, well, I can't name me, so I'll name my mini-me. Like, DeWine is a turd. So anyway, I guess Vivek's going to try to be the next head of Ohio. Well, until next week, Charlie, what do you got?
I don't have anything.
Why don't you have anything if there's an executive order for you to have things today? All right. Well, then we'll say goodbye.